I feel like when I start a new book series, it can go one of two ways. I either binge the whole series or as much of the series as I can, as fast as I can, or it takes me months to get through it, / I just don't get through it and I get distracted and I start a new series, and then I get distracted and I start a new series, and then I get distracted and I start a new series. And because of that, we end up in a position like I am now, where I'm in the middle of so many series that it's a little bit overwhelming. So the goal of today's video is to finish or get up to date with as many series as I possibly can. I did some research and worked out how many series I'm in the middle of. I feel like there may be a few I've forgotten about, and there are also some that I've decided not to continue. I didn't love the first book enough to continue the series. And there's also a lot of series that I've started, but the series itself is unfinished. So I might be up to date with the newest release in that series, but the series itself is not complete. So obviously, aside from those, based on the research that I have done, I am in the middle of 16 series, which is more than I would like to be in the middle of, especially because there are so many other series that I want to start. How many times have I said series already in this video? I'm a little bit over the word already. And I thought it would be fun to kind of just quickly run you guys through, do a little rapid fire. But according to my note, here is a list of series that I haven't finished yet. Whisper by Lynette Noni, the Caraval trilogy, I've only read the first book. The Bridge Kingdom series, I've read the first 2 books. The Plated Prisoner series, I've read the first 5 books, I think. Divine Rivals, I still haven't read Ruthless Vows. I've been procrastinating. Sisters of Salt, this is one that I actually just read the first book of very recently, and right now it's just a duology. I think there's a 3rd book coming, but I only have 1 book to catch up on for that one. I also still have to finish the Shepherd King duology. I've read the first book in the Raven Cycle. I've also read the first book in the Regency Fairy Tales series. I've also only read the first book in the Dangerous Damsel series. I've read the first 2 books in the This Woven Kingdom series, which right now there are 3 books, but there are more coming. I have read 5 out of the 6 books in the Eden series by Daphne Perry, which is so silly. I just need to finish that one. I literally have 1 book left. I've read the first book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. I've read the first book in the Lovelight series. I have read the first 3 books in the Boys of Tommen series, and I've read the first book in the Anatomy duology. So that's kind of where I'm at with all of the series that I'm in the middle of. Like I said, there are some series that I started but have decided not to continue. So out of the 16 series that I'm in the middle of and want to continue, 10 of those series I have the next book in that series in my possession, or on my TBR. So this is the pile of books that we have as our TBR for this video. Obviously, we're not going to be able to read all of these books in this video, but we might be able to read a few, and I'm intrigued to see which ones we get to. I think I have 9 books in this stack because I also have Legendary on my Kobo. But these are the books that we have to choose from. We have House of Roots and Ruin, In the Weeds, Swift and Saddled, The Inadequate Heir, Two Twisted Crowns, All This Twisted Glory, Immortality, Redeeming Six, and Ruthless Vows. So what do I want to start with? Honestly, I'm a little bit unsure. I think I'm deciding between 2. I either want to read Immortality or Redeeming Six. I only read the first book in this series a couple of weeks ago and I loved it, and I want to read it while it's still fresh in my memory. And then I only just finished Saving Six and straight away wanted to start Redeeming Six. But something that I did not realize about this series, okay, look at these 2 books. We have Saving Six, Redeeming Six. They look pretty much exactly the same size. Am I right? They look the same. Saving Six, 621 pages. Redeeming Six, 920 pages. What? 300 pages longer than this one? Where? Well, it turns out it's because these pages are Bible thin. They are so thin. 920 pages? How long is that going to take me to get through? I'm a little bit scared. So I'm kind of leaning towards Immortality. I definitely want to read this very, very soon, but I feel like it's just going to take me a little bit of time to chip away at this. So maybe we start with something a little bit less intimidating and something that will hopefully break my heart a little bit less than this one, because this has been ripping my heart to shreds and I don't know if I'm emotionally ready for this. Maybe a little YA Victorian era mystery fiction subplot of romance will be good. Let's go with this one. So last night I started Immortality after I filmed the little intro. I was like, yeah, I'll start Immortality, I'm excited. And tell me why it is 24 hours later, it's 6 p.m. the next day, and I have this much left. I have binged this, and I was out most of today. I was hanging out with Lang today from 10 a.m. till maybe 5 p.m. So all of this was read either last night or this morning. I have binged it. It has been so good. It's gone such a different direction than I was expecting. In the first book, we are following Hazel, who wants to be a surgeon, but she's living in the Victorian era in Edinburgh, and girls are just not allowed to become surgeons. So she dresses up as a boy and gives like a fake name so that she can attend school to become a surgeon, or like college or whatever. And so you're following her in this first book as she tries to become a surgeon and get as much experience as possible. And while she is studying to become a surgeon and trying to get this experience, she meets Jack, who makes a living digging up dead bodies and selling them to all sorts of people, but mostly like surgeons and people who are wanting to study, like do autopsies and things like that, and use those bodies. And so she meets Jack, they become friends, and a romance ensues, but a lot of things fall apart at the end of Anatomy. And I won't tell you exactly what happens, obviously, because that would be a spoiler, but I was really intrigued to see what the next book was going to do and what it was going to be about. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to go the direction that it has, but I love the direction that it has gone. In this book, we are following Hazel as a lot of things happen to her, but specifically she ends up in London and she ends up working in a castle. Again, I don't want to explain how or why or any sort of details because it would be a spoiler, but she just ends up in this totally different situation than I ever thought based on like what happened in the first book. Like I just never expected her to end up in the situation that she is in our second book, but it's still so good. We have a whole bunch of new characters, we have a whole new environment or like setting, I guess, and it's just so much fun. I really love the writing. I love the descriptions. I feel like I can see every scene in my head. There are balls and there are royals and there's love stories, there's betrayals, there's secret societies. Like it's so good. I think I rated the first book 4 stars and this one I'm enjoying even more. I just can't believe that this book ends in what? How many pages have I got left? 70 or 80 pages. I'm gonna be so sad because this is just a duology and I feel like there's so much that needs to happen before the end of this book. Specifically, the love story. I will say, I know that it's called Anatomy a love story and Immortality a love story, but I will say I feel like the romance does take a little bit of a backseat. A little bit of a backseat. I would say majority of both books really focus on Hazel, on her becoming a surgeon, on all of the things that she's doing, the places she's going, the people she's meeting. Just like Hazel. We're following Hazel. There is a romance, but I wouldn't call this book or like the first book a romance. Specifically in this book, not a lot of romance happening. Like it is happening, but I wouldn't say it's like the main thing. I wouldn't call this a romance. So it's very interesting that they've titled it a love story. Either way, I'm still eating it up, but my plan for the rest of the evening is have a shower, wash off my makeup, wash my hair, all those things, and then sit in my library room and finish this book. I'm so excited. So I ended up finishing Immortality last night and it was so good. I think I'm gonna give it a 4.5. Like it was just incredible. Like I just loved it. I loved the storyline of this book. I loved that it was a romance, but so much more than a romance. Like honestly, most of the book was more just focused on our main character, Hazel, and just like what she was doing and the life that she was kind of creating for herself, and also just like problem solving. Like she doesn't have an easy life necessarily, and a lot of things just like go wrong and she just like figures it out and doesn't really lose hope, and I love that. And it was just a lot of fun. Like I just enjoyed it from start to finish. It didn't quite give me that 5-star feeling, but it was almost there. Like this was so close to being a 5-star, I reckon. But yeah, I absolutely loved this. And then I decided to pick up another book last night, like while I was falling asleep. And so I decided to pick up Swift and Saddle by Lyla Sage. And I only read a little bit. I think I read about 50 pages, maybe. Yeah, I'm up to chapter 8. Page 52. Also, how cute is my bookmark? I will leave it linked down below. It's a cute little small business, Australian based, called The Shelf Studio. It's run by the most lovely girl. Her name is Tegan. And I just thought this one was really cute because it has like pink and yellow, which matches my book perfectly. And then the beaded part has oranges, yellows, and like peachy pinks. So it really matches the front cover, like the sunset and stuff. So I thought that was such a cute little accessory. But yeah, I'm obviously going to continue reading this one. This is the second book in the, what is it called? Rebel Blue Ranch series? A Rebel Blue Ranch novel. Yeah. In this book, we are following Weston and Ada. I don't actually know how to say her name. Ada. Ada. And Weston is the main character from the first book's brother. So we're kind of following a little family situation here. I think the third book will be about the other brother, and Ada has moved, or like temporarily come to stay at the small town where they all live because she is helping doing this like big renovation project on the ranch, and Weston is the one who's in charge of that. So they're kind of working together to do this project. But the day before Ada is supposed to start on this big project, she goes out to the bar, I guess, goes to the pub. She's looking to get like dinner and a drink while she kind of preps the night before, and she meets a guy, and there's just like instant chemistry, and they have a little thing, I guess, and then they go their separate ways. And then the next morning she turns up to work to start this big project, and she realizes that her boss is the guy that she made out with the night before at the bar, and she's like, oops, that was not my intention, that was not supposed to happen. So, and I think they're both going to be like, we must keep things professional, like we must not act on this, you know. I'm not going into this thinking it's going to be a 5-star. I think the first book in the series to me was like a 3.5-star read. Like, it was good, it was a fun time, it was just nothing revolutionary, and I'm assuming this will be the same thing, but I'm in the mood for it. Like, I'm in the mood for just like a silly goofy time, a fun little romance, a cowboy romance. Like, that just sounds really good to me right now, so hopefully this is just a fun time. He just cooked her favorite meal for her, and he doesn't even cook. That's so cute. I think I'm now about 2/3 of the way through Swift and Saddled, and I am liking this even more than I thought I would. I do just think I am in the perfect mood for this exact type of romance. Like, it is just hitting the spot. I don't think it's like a 5-star, but it might be sitting at a 4-star, which is honestly better than I thought. I thought this was gonna be like a 3, maybe a 3.5, but right now, if it continues the way it has been, it's probably gonna be a 4-star for me, because I am just having so much fun with this. I really like both of our main characters. I really like the storyline. I can't remember how much I explained of this, but Ada has come to work on this like old house on the ranch. Weston wants to just like redo it, renovate it, put new flooring in, new counters, paint all the walls, you know, just like fully redo it, make it new again. And so he hired Ada to come and kind of run the whole project. And so they've been working together on this project, and just the way that the author has described everything, all of the renovations and all of the design choices, the wallpaper, the counters, everything, I could just see this house so clearly. And they describe it as being this like vintagey, like wallpaper, blue and white, exposed brick kind of situation, and it just sounds so beautiful. And even the whole ranch is just explained so well. Like, I feel like I have such a vivid picture of what it looks like in my head. My grandparents used to own a cattle farm, and I spent a lot of time in my childhood years at my grandparents' farm, and so I feel like anytime I read a small town romance and they talk about the farmhouse or like where they live or anything like that, I pretty much always imagine it looking like my grandparents' farm and like the paddocks and all of that sort of stuff. And I just love it so much. Like, this book is just, I don't know, it's just the perfect vibe for right now. It's also a really rainy day here, so I'm sitting outside. It's like on and off raining, but I'm on my egg chair just all cozy in my hoodie. Like, I just couldn't be any happier. This is just such a perfect afternoon. That was so good. I honestly really enjoyed this. I'm gonna give it 4 stars because I feel like it did everything it needed to do. Like, it was just a quick, cute little cowboy romance, great found family, really cute romantic scenes, like lots of acts of service. It was so good. In saying that, it definitely wasn't like perfect, and if I had to get like nitpicky about it, I think there are kind of like 2 main things that I wish were done a little bit differently. The first thing is that it wrapped up so quickly. Like, I was shocked when I got to the end. I was like, that's the end? Like, I feel like the last like 30 or 40 pages, I don't know, it just wrapped up too quickly for my liking. I feel like the complication was understandable, but almost like not dramatic enough. I don't feel like I've ever said that, but the issue that they dealt with almost felt like not that difficult to overcome, which I don't know. I just think I wanted a bit more for the ending. Also, there was like, actually this goes into my next point. Both of our main characters had, I guess, like traumas or difficulties as part of their character, I guess, as part of their personality. So Ada is divorced. She had a previous marriage, and that is mentioned many times in this book because it really traumatized her, this previous relationship. She wasn't treated very well. And yeah, it just makes her act certain ways, think certain ways, have certain mindsets, whatever it may be. And for Wes, he struggles with his mental health. He has depression, and they also discuss that. However, it felt like these two things were like given to our characters almost just so that they had some sort of depth, but it felt like the author was like, how can I make these characters more complicated and more layered? Like, they need to have something that they're dealing with, and it felt like they were just like given to the characters. It didn't really feel like those things were actually a part of those characters. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, Wes's mental health was brought up like maybe 2 or 3 times very briefly, and it was never delved into, and I'm like, what's the point of even like bringing it up if you're not going to really go into it or really flesh it out, I guess, because you had such a great opportunity to create a really great amount of depth there and some really great awareness, and I just don't think it was done at all, really. And the same for Ada with her previous relationship. It just was not fleshed out like at all. It was definitely mentioned and it was alluded to, and she talked about some things kinda that happened in her past, but not once did they really sit down and just flesh it out and give us the full backstory of her previous marriage, her previous partner. And I was really waiting for that the whole time. I was like, I want to know like the nitty gritty details of this previous relationship. I want to understand everything about it, and we just never got there. And the one time where we did get more of an explanation, it still was not like enough for me. It almost felt like the characters were having these really in-depth conversations, not on page. Like, they were having these conversations, getting to know each other really well, but we as the readers didn't get to see it, and I don't understand why that was the case. I just wanted a little bit more from the characters, or I guess from the author, because she like gave these things to the characters but didn't like fully give them to the characters. Like, there was potential, but it never became more than potential. It just stayed at the potential point. However, in saying that, I really enjoyed this. Definitely enjoyed it more than the first one. I think it's so much fun. I really liked our characters. I love the found family. I feel like I've already talked about all the things that I loved. Like, overall, a great reading experience. Under 300 pages, super quick. I feel like these books are really great if you like cowboy romances, if you like small town romances, if you just need something that's like quick, fast paced, just like easy to read, bit of a palate cleanser. I think these books are really good. And now we are officially up to date with another series, and that feels so good. What are we gonna start next? I'm not sure. One thing I really appreciate about these books is how floppy they are. Like, how gorgeous is that? Like, this is almost 500 pages and it just like sits so beautifully. No breaking spine necessary. I will break a spine if it's needed, but I would much rather have just like a floppy book. I definitely have a reading update for you guys. So I decided that I wanted to continue the Bridge Kingdom series. I've read the first 2 books, so I decided to start book 3, which is called The Inadequate Heir. If you don't know much about the Bridge Kingdom series, book 1 and 2 follow one couple, and then book 3 and 4 follow a totally different couple, still in the same world, still in the same political situation, still kind of following the main plot that the first 2 books followed in terms of like the political situation, but follows different characters. I obviously can't really tell you what's happening in the 3rd book because that would spoil what happens in the first 2 books, but if you want to know the plot of the first book, it's basically centered around this like arranged marriage that is arranged for political reasons to basically create harmony between 2 different kingdoms. So it's like between a prince of one kingdom and a princess of another one. Forgive me if I'm getting details incorrect as well, because I read the first 2 books either a year or 2 years ago. I genuinely can't remember if it was last year or the year before. Surely last year. Either way, it's an arranged marriage between like 2 royal families. I think for some sort of treaty kind of situation. Again, not exactly sure of the details. However, the princess that is involved has actually been trained since birth, basically, along with with her sisters to kind of be like almost an assassin kind of vibe, like an assassin slash warrior slash soldier kind of situation. Like, yes, she's a princess obviously, but she has been raised from childhood to basically be a spy. So the plan has always been that one of these sisters would get sent across to marry this other prince, but secretly she would actually be going across to look as if she's just like a princess who knows nothing and is just a pretty face, but really she is going to be getting information from the other royal family and sending it back to her family in the hopes that they can take down the other royal family and have all the power, have all of the things, you know? Hopefully that makes sense. So in the first book, we are following the princess as she gets sent across in this arranged marriage to fulfill this like mission, I guess. But she meets her prince, her betrothed, and there may be feelings involved. There may be a romance involved, who knows? But that's kind of the plot that you're following of the first two books. However, there's definitely not like a seamless conclusion in the first two books. Like, it doesn't end happily ever after. It's very interesting how it ends. And so of course then we have the next two books. And like I said, these two books follow a totally different couple. So in these books, we are following Zara and Keris, I think his name is. And Zara is the general of an army of one kingdom, and Keris is the prince or one of the princes of the other kingdom. And this is, so the princess in the first book that we meet, who's our main character in the first two books, Keris is her brother, so that's how it all links together. And in this book, these two characters meet not really actually knowing the identity of the other, and so they are technically supposed to be enemies, but feelings get involved. Shock horror, who would have thought? So this is very much like a forbidden star-crossed lovers kind of situation. Anyway, I actually haven't updated you guys in a few days, and the update is I started The Inadequate Heir, which is book 3, and I finished it. And then I started the fourth book, which is The Endless War, and I am halfway through. So I kept thinking to myself, Rachel, you need to update the vlog, you need to update the vlog. And then I just like finished the book and I was like, well, I guess the update will be that I finished this and started this. It's just like hard to update you guys about what's going on when it's book 3 in the series, because I'm like, I can't really tell you what's going on because that will like ruin what happens in the first two books, but I will tell you my thoughts and like how I'm feeling. So I think I'm gonna give this one a 3.5 because I do quite like it and I am enjoying it, but it's not like my favorite book ever. It's not, in my opinion, it's not as good as the first two books. I think I just felt more attached to the main characters in the first two books. I honestly couldn't care less about the romance going on in this book, or like this series, I guess. Like, I don't believe it. I just like don't feel the chemistry between the two main characters. I'm not sure why. I couldn't tell you, because obviously you get told how they feel about each other, but I just like don't feel the connection. And I also just like don't care that much about the characters. I'm a lot more interested in the plot and like the political situation than the romance, which is a little bit unusual for me. Usually I'd much prefer like the romance compared to the plot, but I'm a lot more interested and a lot more invested in the plot. I don't know. I wish I could tell you why I don't feel really connected to the characters or the romance, but I don't know. That's just how I feel. I'm still honestly really enjoying it. It's just like not my favorite ever, but definitely enjoying it enough to continue, obviously. So 3.5 for this one, and now I've started this one. I'm like halfway through. I will say, if you want to pick up this series, I feel like the first two books kind of felt more romance heavy to me, if I'm remembering correctly. But I feel like these two books are so heavy on the politics. I feel like the plot and the politics are way more important in these two books than the romance. Like, obviously the romance is there and it's important, but yeah, it just feels like there's way more of a focus on the political situation. But I'm intrigued to continue reading, and hopefully there is like a satisfying ending to this one, because I do know that they've announced that there's going to be a book 5, and I'm just like, more? Like, why do we keep going? Like, I don't really understand. I feel like this series is kind of getting a little bit dragged out. Like, I don't know if we need to go past the book 4 situation, but maybe that's just because I'm not obsessed with it that I think that. But update is, finished this one, started this one, and hopefully that means we will be up to date with another series once I finish this one. I just finished The Endless War, and it wasn't my favorite, but it was good. It was entertaining, definitely kept me interested. Like I've said kind of the whole whole way through, I just don't think these are like my favorite characters ever. Like, they're good, but I'm just not as attached to them as I am to other characters. I do think this book is really interesting though. I thought it was going to be a lot more war centered. Obviously it's called The Endless War. I thought it was just going to be completely centered around the Endless War. And whilst the overarching theme was definitely this political situation, the war, all of that sort of stuff, there was some really interesting things that took place. Something that I just was not expecting was like the Devil's Island situation. That was really fascinating, and I really liked how that was incorporated into the book and just like the turn that the plot took. I liked that it wasn't just fully talking about war, talking about strategy, all of that sort of stuff. Definitely had those moments, but it wasn't like the whole thing. So overall, I'm gonna give it 3.5, same as I rated the third book in the series. And it's time to move on to our next book. I think this will be my last book that I read in this video, and I was like, I kind of want to read something a bit lighter because obviously this was like long and like heavy, like war, death, strategizing, family dynamics, just like, you know? So I wanted something a bit lighter, and I think I'm going to pick up In the Weeds by BK Borison. This is the second book in the Love Light series. So Love Light Farms is book 1, In the Weeds is book 2, and I'm pretty sure each book in this series follows a different couple, so like interconnected standalones kind of vibes. The first book follows Stella and Luca, I want to say. I could be wrong with the names. And I read that one at the end of last year and I liked it. I think I gave it like a 3 or a 3.5. I can't quite remember, but it wasn't one that like super stuck with me. But I did want to continue the series and like see what I felt about the rest of them. I'm hoping I like this one a little bit more. On the back of this one it says, a grumpy farmer, a no-nonsense social media influencer, a small town of busybodies, and 4 very cute kittens. So I think this is going to be kind of like broody, quiet farmer and like obviously social media influencer girly. I'm intrigued to see how that trope goes because sometimes it's just interesting how influencers are portrayed in books. So I'm going to start this. It's a pretty short one. Hopefully it's more of a fun, light-hearted time, and I'll give you guys an update probably tomorrow. I'm just waiting to go into an appointment, but I brought my book with me. I've only read a little bit of it so far, but I wanted to give you like first impressions. I'm up to page 60, and this is about 300 pages, so it's a pretty short one, which is nice. Also, again, how cute does my bookmark charm look with the cover? It like matches so well because it has a little flower. Anyway, it's okay. It's okay. I want to find another book that I'm obsessed with. Guys, I've had so many like mediocre books recently. Immortality was Chef's Kiss Gorgina Bambina. What did I read after that? Actually, no. Swift and Saddled was also pretty good, 4 stars. But then we had the Bridge Kingdom book 3. It was okay. Bridge Kingdom book 4. It was okay. Now we have this. It's okay. But I'm just like, where are the 5 stars? Like, where are they? Honestly, I'm 60 pages in, so I shouldn't be complaining this much yet because there's a lot of time for this to surprise me and impress me. But so far, it's just okay. A lot of the time, if it starts off with like a one-night stand, it's not my favorite, and that is how this book starts off. You just like get thrown into the thick of it. It's like one-night stand at a conference or something, and then the characters go their separate ways, and then they happen to run into each other, I guess, in a small town. I love a small town, love the side characters, love all their quirky little jobs and quirky little personalities, but so far like the romance itself between the 2 main characters, I'm just like, you need to do some more work to convince me that this is gonna be cute, because so far it's just like, okay, but it has potential. Love the setting, love the side characters, could be cute. The first book in this series was like 3 stars for me, so I'm hoping this one will be better. But if this one isn't any better, will I continue the series? Maybe not. I'll update you guys later. I'm now on page 175, so I'm over halfway, and I've got to say, I am enjoying it more than I was before, which is so good. Like, I think I just needed to get a little bit more attached to the characters. I just love the small town vibe. Like, it's so cute. Like, right now we're at a trivia night and they're just so funny. Like, all the different characters. I love seeing their personalities come out. We're also like spending some time with Beckett's family and they're just so funny. I don't know why, but I I love a found family. I love small town. Like, it's so cute. One of the things I didn't love about this book, and I'm still not loving now, is that the relationship just has this very like physical foundation to it, because it started off as a one night stand, and I feel like these characters still just have that like physical draw to each other, which is fine, but sometimes it just feels like it takes over a little bit, and I just wish that wasn't like the first scene that we saw, because the book just like starts off with this one night stand, and I don't know, I just don't love it when relationships kind of have that as their like base or their foundation. Like, I don't love friends with benefits or anything like that, because I prefer more of an emotional foundation to the relationship. But I feel like now, a little bit later into the book, we're getting more of that like emotional part of it, you know, that like really caring kind of part of it. We also had like the trope where one of the characters is kind of like sick and the other one looks after them, which I'm a sucker for that every single time. I love it when that happens. I don't know why. Maybe it's like the acts of service in me, and I love watching them like get them food and blankets and just take care of them. I think it's always just so sweet. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I don't think it's gonna be a 5-star, but I'm having fun with it, and I'm glad that I wasn't planning on DNFing it, but at the start I was like, oh, I think this is just going to be like a pretty mediocre 3-star read, but I think it's going to be closer to like a 4-star, which is really nice. I just also love these covers so much. Like, all of the covers in this series are so pretty. So like, this is such a dumb reason, but I was really hoping I would like these books because I want to buy all the books in the series, because I think they're going to look so cute on my bookshelves. I know that's silly, I know, but just being honest. I think the last book in this series comes out soon as well. Maybe this month or next month? I don't know. I know that there's 3 books out, but there's another book coming out sometime soon. But anyway, I'm gonna keep reading, and maybe we'll even finish this today. I only have just over 100 pages left, and I really want to know what's gonna happen. I just finished In the Weeds, and it was so cute. I think I'm gonna end up giving it like a 3.75. I feel like it was almost a 4-star, but just like not quite. Kind of just for the same reasons that I mentioned earlier. It's just like a personal preference thing. It just wasn't like completely my cup of tea, but still very enjoyable, still super sweet. I honestly don't know if I want to continue the series or not, because the first book was like 3 stars, this one was 3.75. Like, they're good, but I'm like, do I care enough to continue? Let me know if the 3rd book is like really good, because maybe if it is, then I'll continue it. I think it's called Mixed Signals. Who is the next one about? I don't know. Anyway, we'll have to wait and see. I'm not fully convinced yet to continue it, but I'm not like, I definitely won't. I'm just not like rushing out to get the next book, and there are so many other books I'm like more excited to read, so why wouldn't I read those instead? But again, still really enjoyed this. Super cute. And reading this doesn't necessarily mean I'm up to date with this series, but it does mean that we're a little bit closer to being up to date with this series, I guess. So that's good. This video was honestly so successful. We read 5 books, and I had so much fun. So we started off the video with Immortality, which is the 2nd book in a duology. So we completed this series, which is amazing. And I think out of all the books that I read in this video, this was my favorite. So definitely recommend. Then I also read Swift and Saddle. This was probably my 2nd favorite. I really enjoyed this one too. I was not expecting to like this one as much as I did, but it was just a lot of fun. I kind of forgot how much I love small town romances. Like, they just hit, especially when they have good found family. And reading this also means I'm up to date with this series, which is amazing. We also finished, well, at this point, we're finished with the Bridge Kingdom series, because I read The Inadequate Heir and The Endless War, which is so good. Like I said, I don't think this series is technically finished, but I'm at least up to date, which is great. And I enjoyed these books. They were both 3.5-star reads for me, so like good, but not like my favorite ever. I do think the first 2 books in this series were a little bit stronger, but maybe that's just because I preferred the couple more. I'm not sure. Either way, still had fun with these. And then obviously, like you just saw, I read In the Weeds by BK Borison, which is the 2nd book in the Love Light series. I'm not necessarily up to date with this series, but like I mentioned before, I'm not even sure if I'm gonna continue the series. We'll have to see how I feel later on. But we read 5 books. We made progress on 4 different series. We are now up to date with 3 series that I wasn't up to date with before. And I just had a lot of fun. So a very successful reading week. Let me know if you want to see more of these videos. I feel like they're so productive. They make me feel so accomplished. But hopefully you guys enjoyed watching them. But I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video very soon. Goodbye.